Hi guys, it's a Forgetful Scholar. Let's chat about books. 2 books. That's right. That's right. I still have a reading slump, but I managed to get it together. And I forced myself to read some things. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to be trying to be as quick as possible. This is going to be 107 today. And humidity, I don't even know. And I did I don't know what possessed me to have my hair down today. And I always say I'm going to be quick, and then I end up yapping. So, let's go. Okay, so, and Q Doggo, scratching at the rug, which he's not supposed to do. Okay, so the first, I did it, guys. I read the Monster Romance Buddy Read. I know, right? I don't know why I thought it was Michelle Mills. It's not Michelle Mills. But, okay, so Cupcakes for My Orc Enemy, Honey Phillips, Sweet Monster's Treat, Book 1. There we go. So this is FM Contemporary Monster Romance. So, this one, I'm giving 2 stars. Okay, so I'm going to say okay, let's just get into it. Okay, so I don't even know their names. And the thing is, I finished this book like last night, so I should remember. So it should be fresh in my mind, right? Nope. Okay, so Alara and Gondor. Alara is the human, Gondor is the orc. So she moves to this little town of Fair Haven Falls. She's a human. She wants to like start over, so she's gonna open a coffee shop. Okay, you know. And he owns, the orc owns the bakery next door. So at first I was like, oh, that's cute, like an orc in a bakery. I mean, we get that from like his apron with the cupcake on it. And that's what kind of intrigued me at first, because usually orcs, and this is coming from someone who like loves D&D, loves Pathfinder, loves the Tolkien series. Orcs tend to be, you know, big brutes and things like that, you know? So I was like, okay, that'd be cute, right? So, the thing is, I found it a little boring. And I hate to say it, because, you know, I love indie writers, and I think like that's so amazing, and that you're going out, you're putting your art for everybody with like no backing, you know, and that's incredible. You know, like Honey Phillips, that's incredible, okay? And I think there's some really great points in the story that I would love to have seen it worked on a little bit more, like expanded. So I said 2 stars, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm like so sleep deprived, and you guys are like, oh my god, she's filming, so obviously she's sleep deprived. You're right. But this bout of insomnia has lasted like 4 days, so I'm a little like, okay. I just read it yesterday. Like, where's my head? Okay. So she moves to Fairhaven Falls, and apparently we get a little bit of the world. And the thing is, I really enjoyed this world building. That's why it is 2 stars, because I thought the world was a lot of fun. So, monsters, and that's a derogatory term, so they're called others, because that's what others, are like centaurs, orcs, you know, things like that. They apparently don't really reside in the cities. They reside more in suburban areas, and the humans are kind of in the cities. Okay. So she comes up, she parks, and she immediately talks about YouTube. So I kind of got thrown for a minute, because like, oh, I'm so used to Monster Romance is like the end of the world happened, or it's an alien, or, you know, a different dimension, you know, things like that. So her mentioning YouTube really cemented it for me in our world, in our reality, and I was like fascinated by it. And I thought that was a lot of fun. You know, it wasn't a dystopian monster romance. And I thought that was a lot of fun. So I really, really enjoyed that. I wish that was expanded upon, you know? So she comes up and she sees a mixed other couple of a minotaur and a cat person. And like, she's kind of taken aback. And I was like, okay, using like the other is a substitute for, talking about racial inequality. I love it. Just because you're writing a romance doesn't mean it can't be deep. I was like, ooh, okay, cool, cool, cool. That really goes nowhere. She's just a little uncomfortable, and then that's it. I'm like, oh, all right, that's disappointing. That's disappointing. So this is supposed to be enemy to lovers, but they didn't feel like enemies. They felt like he was a grouchy neighbor, and that was it. And so literally in his introduction, we're introduced to him, in his POV. And he's like, I effing hate humans, right? And then literally 2 pages after that, he's like, oh, I want to fuck that human. And I'm like, that's a little fast. I thought you hated all humans. Like, what is that? And I was like, okay, that'll be interesting. Does he hate humans because of gentrification? Was there like a race struggle? Like, ooh, okay, let's see no. His ex-girlfriend, who was a human, broke his tiny little heart. And now he hates all humans. And I'm like, that doesn't seem very a mature response from like a freaking adult. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't seem... I was like, oh, okay. All right. And I usually don't talk about the love scenes because I feel like humor and love scenes in a book are very subjective. You know what I mean? And for me, the love scenes were very boring. It was very like typical I am caveman ooh, ooh, ooh kind of thing. I didn't find it sexy. I found it a little boring. And then his grandmother, and I'm going to mention this because this is kind of the only part in the book where I kind of felt the writer was having fun. Because, when you're on the phone, you call somebody. Yes, cell phones can be used to call people, not just, TikTok. And you're talking to the person on the other line and they're smiling and you could kind of tell like it's in their tone. For instance, when Michelle Mills writes her monster romances, you can tell she's having fun. She's not taking it too seriously. She's having fun. This book had a tone like it was taking itself very seriously until the grandmother showed up. And that was the only time I felt the writer was having fun. Because, like, she has these bright pink juicy sweatpants and juicies on her ass. And she's, like, being all feisty and giving her grandson a hard time. And, like, she was definitely meant to be the comic relief. I didn't find her funny. But, again, that's very subjective. I'm not, like, taking points off for that or for me the boring love scenes. I'm not doing that because again, subjective. What I don't like guys might love, and what you guys might love I might not like, you know what I mean? But like, it's a romance, right? I have no idea who the human and the orc are, like personality wise. Absolutely none. All I know is that he's super grumpy and he's super grumpy the whole time. And I guess she's supposed to be the sunshine, but like it didn't come off of that. And I didn't like feel like any character growth happened. And like, you guys know I love a grumpy with a heart of gold. I love that. So the fact that I was like, oh, I have no idea who this person is and this is so boring. Like that says something, I just found it very boring. I think it was very Lifetime Christmas movie, even though there was no Christmas in it, but that type of Lifetime movie mixed with like D&D creatures. And like the creatures didn't really, or the others didn't really have like any kind of personality traits. Like it was very strange. I'm disappointed because I wanted that to expand more. Like, is there racial tensions between the others? Are there racial tensions between the others and the humans? And like the town council, which are filled with others, want humans to move into their town to boost tourism. And I'm like, why would that boost tourism? Why would that? They didn't explain why. Like maybe if like the town council need a certain amount of humans in their towns for like, I don't know, because of some bill or something, or maybe to get a subsidy from the federal government, something like that. I think I would have understood it a little bit more. As it was, I was like, why is one human opening up a coffee shop so important? Because it boosts tourism. Are humans like rare? Like, is that it? Like, are humans rare? But like humans aren't rare. So like I didn't really get that kind of layout. And I thought it could be expanded so much more. And the pacing was just off. Like I said, I hate humans. 2 pages later, I want to fuck that human. I'm like, what? You don't even know her name. You just know that she lives next door and she nearly burned down the block because she put metal in a microwave. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would be pissed too. And he was angry at her for that. And yeah, rightfully so. You know what I mean? It was just strange. I wanted more progression in their personalities. I wanted more progression in their romance because it felt very fast, like too fast. And I will say, maybe if you held off on the love scene to like the 3rd act, you know what I mean? Then we could get some yearning, some growth, some him realizing like not all humans are assholes, you know, and she didn't really have any racial bias against orcs, which I found kind of surprising, considering our lore on orcs for the games and things like that, but we don't really know any lore in this world about anybody, so that was upsetting because I am a whore for lore. Yeah, the pacing was very off. There was no growth. It was basically like supposed to be enemies to lovers, but it just seemed like grumpy neighbors to fuck buddies, and I guess they're in love because the book tells me. Oh, the one thing that's been driving me freaking up the wall, and the mainstream romance girlies are doing this too, like the writers are doing this too. Stop it. Stop this right now. They're like, oh, the girl she doesn't know this guy. She's never met this guy. She has no idea what this guy's like, but she knows. She just feels in her heart that he wouldn't hurt her. No, you don't. Stop it. Stop it. That drives me nuts. That like pulls me out of a story. It's like, no, like a huge, like just forget he's an orc. A huge like built dude comes roaring into your place, yells at you, like, and you have no idea why. You're gonna be a little intimidated. You're gonna be like, what are you doing in my home? What are you doing? Like, no, you can't be like, well, he's angry, but I just know in my heart he won't hurt me. Fuck you. No, you don't. How dare you? It's such a cheap way for the writers to be like, see, they have a special connection without writing a special connection. And I'm not just picking on you. Julia Quinn does that too, and it drives me freaking nuts. No, write their connection. Put in the time. Let us root for this couple. I did not root for this couple. They're so I forgot their names again. And I just wanted more. Like, I wanted him to have a real reason to hate humans, like maybe subjugation, you know, gentrification, something, you know? Or maybe he hates them because they always hate him. I wanted something more than just like a human broke his heart, but it's okay because she's there to fuck your heart until it's healed, because that's all they do. They don't really talk. They just hump. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, and for me, and this is for me, I felt the writing was a little immature in that if it didn't have so much love scenes in it, I think this would be a great cozy fantasy. Like a YA cozy fantasy. This would have been like 4 stars if that's what this was. You know, like 3 to 4 stars. I think it could have done with another 50 pages. It was like 138 pages. I think it would have done really well with another 50 pages to kind of put some yearning in there, get some more character growth in there, you know, show them growing together, not just like 2 people that are attracted to each other and that's kind of their only connection. So, but I will say, the bones, the skeleton of the world that this author wrote, a lot of fun, like a lot of fun. Like, I would love to see more of that, like expand a little bit more of that, you know, because that was a lot of fun. It was just so much fun to read like these fantasy creatures in our world. And I would just love a little bit more explanation, a little bit more exploration of that concept. Okay, so the next book is a revisit because I'm still struggling with a reading slump. So there might be a lot of repeats here until I get out of it, because for me, it helps to read books that I love and that are on my 5-star shelf and I love them. So the next book is Love Me Forever by Johanna Lindsey. So here's the cover, and here is the gorgeous step back. There we go. So that's Launchin and Kimberly. Okay. Now, you know how romance novels are. you read a book of a couple and then maybe a side character or their kids have their own book. So this is the second in the series, and Lanchin is the kidnapper from this book. He's the kidnapper. So, and this is 5 stars and I love it. So a really quick synopsis of this book to make this one make sense. This is a duke that's hiding out in a stable of a country squire, and the country squire's daughter is just a breathtakingly, impossibly beautiful redhead, who is funny, sweet, and spoiled. And she knows she's spoiled, which is a nice little, Megan's a nice, like, interesting character. Because circumstances, they, are running off to get married. They're hijacked to be, to be robbed by Lanchin and his crew. He sees her instead, kidnaps her because she's so gorgeous, and he fell in love with her the moment he saw her. And, like, he wasn't mean to her. He's actually quite charming. You know what I mean? He's trying to convince her that she would do better with him, that, they could be so happy together. And then the duke from this, named Devlin, comes, beats the crap out of him, and takes Megan back, right? Now, turn of events. And I've read this book a couple times, and I still get confused by the family tree. And this is coming from someone who has a very big, complicated family. Like, there have been moments in my life where, hey, your grandma's second cousin's nephew, third cousin, they're coming to visit because familia. And I'm like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? But this, somehow, they're, the great generation, like the great grandmother, great aunt, you know what I mean, are related. There's two elderly ladies in that generation that are related, that makes these two guys related. And every time I read this, I'm like, what? I really need to chart this out, but I never do. And it's not really that big of a point, but I'm always like, how are they related? So Lanchin's father died, and he left him being the head of their clan. His father's widow, who's not his mother, it's his stepmother, when the father died, grabbed all the money and ran, and she dipped. So they're poor. That's why they resulted into thievery, because he's trying to keep his people fed and alive and going just until he could figure stuff out, And you guys know I love a rascal with a heart of gold. And this is definitely Lanchin, He's very funny. He doesn't take life too seriously. He does have a temper, but that only really comes out when Kimberly is involved, which shows, like, their connection special and one of a kind and different. See how that works? So he needs to marry wealthy, right? Now let's skip over to Kimberly, and he needs to marry wealthy. So his family member that is somehow connected to Devlin's great aunt or something. It's like, hey, go to the Duke. I'm sure they can help you find a wealthy bride, right? It's like, oops, the three of them meet again. And he's trying to, like, seduce Megan away from her marriage. And she's very happy. So that's ridiculous. Like, he's ridiculous. Now we're going to skip over to Kimberly. And Kimberly is one of my favorite female characters. She's so different. See, in romance novels, like with Megan, the women are absolutely gorgeous. Kimberly is not. She's very much a plain Jane. She thinks she's ugly. She's tall and scrawny, and she doesn't have a pretty face, but what she has is money, right? And she's very pragmatic. And she always makes you think of a porcupine, because her father is very abusive. And she knows she's not pretty. She knows all that. She doesn't think she has a good personality. She's very pragmatic, and she knows she wants to get away from her father, and to do that is to marry. And because she doesn't have, like, the outward appearance to, like, seduce a husband or, like, marry someone, she knows she's gonna have to, like, marry someone who needs her money, and she's okay with that. She just wants to get away from her abusive father. Absolutely, girl, absolutely. And this is, like, 5 stars. Johanna Lindsey in her prime. Like, I love this book. So, they meet, Lanchin and Kimberly meet, and they're kind of like, not enemies to lovers, but very antagonistic. And it's surprising because Kimberly is a very quiet, kind person. Again, she's very porcupine. Like, she's been hurt so much verbally, physically by her father. You know, she's always been put down and things like that. So she just very much in her shell, behind her quills, you know. Megan adores her, you know, and they become really good friends, which is really cute, you know. And the thing is, like, oh, this book, you love Launchen and then you hate his guts and then you love him again because, like, him and Kimberly have a night together. They sleep together. And then the next morning, Launchen's still trying to seduce Megan away, right? And, like, Kimberly sees it and it breaks her heart. And your heart breaks with her. Like, it's so good, you know? And Megan's like, you don't love me. You don't know anything about me. You just like this damn face of mine. And he's like, how can you say that? Of course I love you. And she's like, no, you don't. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? And he sees Kimberly leaving, like, on the stairs after he leaves the room. And, like, you're like, Launchen, you're an asshole. Like, you feel that when you're reading it. Like, you're an asshole. I don't care how funny and charming you are. You go from her bed to try to, like, obviously Kimberly is furious, really upset. And Launchen's trying to charm his way out of it. And she's like, no, fuck you. Which I think is great because he definitely needed someone to be like, you can't get out of this with your charm. You're an asshole. End of, you know? And she's like, I'm going to pretend we never slept together. I'm going to tell the man I'm going to marry the truth. Because she's like, I'm marrying, like, they're going to marry me for money anyway. It's not going to be a love match. I don't think they'll care, you know? And Launchen loses his temper and gets all jealous and things like that. And what I love about this is, like, over time, Kimberly starts to feel prettier. Like, she got a haircut that, like, suits her face. Megan, like, helps her find clothes that flatter her figure. And she starts to feel good, you know, about herself. So other people start to see her as a little bit more attractive than she was because her self-esteem is getting better little bit by little bit. And I love that. I love that so much, you know what I mean? And misunderstanding, like, oh, you know, they keep falling into bed together because romance novel, and they have to get married, right? Because they got caught and they have to get married, and she's upset about it, and he's actually really happy about it because through all this time he realizes, like, he's falling in love with her, and, you know, what he thought was a plain Jane is, like, turning into the most beautiful woman in the world, you know, for him. And he's upset because she's more of the emotional stoic one, which I love that kind of flip, you know. She's not showing her emotions. She's not letting him know what she feels, if she's hurt or not, you know what I mean? Because he effed up. And what I like about this is that, like, she makes him earn her trust again. And he, you know, it's good. It's really good. So they're found out. He's compromised her. They have to get married. Her abusive father is like, oh, I'm not going to give you money for marrying a Scot. No way. Internally, she's hiding the fact that her mother gave her money when she died, her birth mother. So Launchen will get money anyway. And this scene, when Launchen realizes, thinks that he's not going to get any money to marry Kimberly, he's still like, I want to marry you. The idea of not marrying is killing me. I don't care about the money. We'll figure it out, honey. We'll get married. And that means so much to Kimberly. And of course it does. You know what I mean? And it's such a really sweet moment. But, like, I'm still smiling about it. You know what I mean? And she's like, no, I need to tell you something. And he's like, we'll figure it out. And she's like, they get married. And then she's going to tell him that, like, oh no, I have money from my mom. Don't worry about it. But before she can, circumstances happen. And it turns out her abusive asshole father married Launchen's stepmother who ran away with the money. And for not prosecuting her, like putting her over to the police, the father agrees to pay back what Winnie, I think Winnie's the name of the stepmother, stole. Which is pretty much what the dowry she would have gotten to marry Launchen anyway. And he's like, okay. Launchen's like, fine, I won't, like, turn you over to the cops. Give me my money. And Kimberly's like, well, just to let you know, I had money from my mom too. But it meant so much, you know, but she didn't, because it meant so much to her that he wanted to marry her for her, you know? And there's some, like, bumps of the road in the third act, because it does show you a little bit more, like, these two books show you more of the married life than romances, I think, usually do, which I thought was a lot of fun, because it was well done. It wasn't boring. So they're married. They go back to his clan. There's a girl there that's been obsessed with Launchen forever because he's a handsome devil, you know. so she's really mean to Kimberly, and like she destroys some of Kimberly's mother's antiques. And it's just, I really love this part because it shows how much Lanchin cares for her and how upset he is for her and how he's trying to comfort her and make it all better. And it's really sweet. Like, it's a really sweet moment because even then, Kimberly's still kind of protecting herself emotionally. So it's a really sweet moment. I really love that moment. So again, I said I was going to be fast because I'm like melting, but like, nope. So I was happy. So I love that 5 stars. I'm still in a bit of a reading slump. So again, you guys might see a lot of revisits because I'm just trying to remind myself like why I love this like why I love reading so much and why I love reading romance so much. So hopefully I get out of it soon and read some new stories. So I don't want to. It's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.